Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm Leah again here for another live video, and it is December 16th, 9 days until Christmas. So we're going to be covering every Muslim's favorite topic to talk about this kind of year, Christmas. So obviously, because I'm usually talking in particular about things that affect converts and new Muslims, I'm going to be talking about how the Christmas season and everything affects converts, in particular new converts. So in the past, I've talked about this before. I wrote an article around this time last year about how it's not haram to be with your family on Christmas. That's not quite the topic for today, but I am just going to give a little bit of a recap. So something that is really important for Muslims to keep in mind, in particular people who have been Muslim all of their lives, Christmas is not always, but in many cases, the only time of the year that the entire family gets together in North American culture. Our families are, they can be spread all over the place. Everyone has busy lives, but almost everyone, not quite everyone, but almost everyone has Christmas Day off. And so it makes it easy for everyone to get together. So keep that in mind for a minute, because then we're also going to talk about family ties. And I mean, we all know how important family ties are in Islam. We talk at great length about how even if your parents aren't good to you, you should still at least maintain, a minimum amount of contact with them, because family ties are so important. So, if you're struggling with the idea of Christmas celebrations on the day of Christmas, then try and frame it in that way. It is maintaining family ties, and those family ties can be incredibly precious to converts, many of whom, more or less lose their families when they become Muslim. So again, like I said, that's not the topic of the talk today. And pardon me for continually looking this way. I'm looking at my notes. So that's, like I said, that's not the topic for today. But I did just want to kind of give that bit of base level. I'm not going to be talking about how being with your family on Christmas is haram, because I don't believe that. And in general, that view has not been supported by the About Islam page. So keep that in mind as a frame of reference. Generally speaking, we're not going to be saying that it's haram to be with your family. Now, obviously, we're Muslim. We don't worship Jesus, of course. We honor him as a prophet, but we obviously don't think that he's God. That's, obviously absurd in our religion. So it would, it's probably not advisable for people to participate in religious aspects of Christmas. So, that might be a part where you try and take a step back if you're a convert from the religious aspect of it. But even if you do come from a religious family, there are a lot of things that happen in your everyday celebration of Christmas that are secular, gift giving, eating dinner together, all of that, that doesn't require belief in, Jesus' divinity to do. So anyway, as I said, that's sort of the baseline that I'm going to be referring to today. But what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of a different spin on this topic, rather than talking about just maintaining family ties and being together on Christmas and all that. Assalamu alaikum to everyone who is who's joining now. I am seeing some comments scroll along on the page. and I try to follow them as best I can, but I'm not always able to keep up during the video. But thank you everyone who's tuning in to watch. So today we're going to be talking about common challenges that converts face around Christmas time, and how you, as friends of converts, because I'm sure you all make friends with converts if you can, if you have any around you, what you can do to be supportive of your new Muslim friends. So starting off with common challenges that converts face during Christmas, during the holiday season. Probably the number one is isolation. And I say that's the number one because that's something that even a lot of non-Muslims who are completely in the culture that celebrate Christmas, how that's something that they experience. So isolation during the holiday season, which has, at least in North America, is the time of the year where the suicide rates are the highest, because people are suffering from isolation. So with converts, there are kind of two different factions, or two different directions of isolation that might tend to take place. First of all, there's always the possibility of feeling isolated from one's family. So this could go a couple different ways. Maybe, you're far away from your family and you're just feeling lonely. That's something that people, even non-Muslims, like I said, they feel around the holiday, particularly if you lost a family member around this time of year. But additionally, and this is more unique to converts, remember that a lot of us, when we became Muslim, we lost our families. Alhamdulillah, I'm really, really super blessed that I did not. My family is wonderful, and they never shunned me or anything like that, and they're very welcoming to my husband, who's been Muslim all his life. So I'm very fortunate. But for a lot of converts, when they become Muslim, they lose their families, and so it can be particularly difficult for that time of year, because not only is it a time of the year where many people are celebrating and happy around you, but you have these people in your life who you love but who don't accept you anymore. So that is something that would be absolutely heartbreaking, and I can't even imagine if you're a convert who's out there, who has suffered through this. I'll make dua for you, and I really hope that you are able to reach out to someone in your community, or that someone in your community can reach out to you and give you support during this time. So there's always that, the isolation from family if you lose your family by becoming Muslim. But then there's also a bit of isolation from the Muslim community. And I mean, this is something that's sort of across the board for converts. A lot of, and I'll just speak about this briefly, but a lot of converts experience this sort of, I don't know, but it's like a phenomenon. When you first become Muslim, everyone is really happy, everyone's really welcoming, they're so excited, there's a new Muslim, but then it just kind of like goes away. Kind of like the phenomenon of the child star in Hollywood, if you'll forgive the comparison. You hear about a lot of people who are really famous as children, but then they kind of got all messed up when they grew up. It's sort of a similar idea. You have all this love and attention when you first become Muslim, but then all of a sudden everyone just expects you to be perfect and they don't care about you anymore. So there's always that sort of feeling of isolation that a lot of new Muslims experience after they've gotten past like the honeymoon phase, and everyone's just like, all right, you're Muslim now, you're one of us, we're done taking care of you or whatever. So there's always that bit of isolation. And it can probably feel, a lot stronger during this holiday season, again, when everyone around you seems to just be happy and, delightful and enjoying the season. So it's like that sting is even more painful. But then this kind of segues into my next challenge that a lot of converts face, especially during this time of year, and that is guilt associated with it. And this is somewhere where the Muslim community has really not done so good. I'm sorry. I do this every time. I get a little bit distracted when I'm reading the comments as they're scrolling up, and I'm trying to think like, okay, how can I remember to go back to these and make sure to address them. But anyway, I'll try and get back to them. I'm just so not good at like talking into the screen and reading the screen at the same time. Anyway, so, and I've seen this happen with my own eyes over the last couple of days, is Muslims, especially almost exclusively, unfortunately, Muslims who have been Muslim their whole life, just tearing people apart for even entertaining the idea of, being with a person's family during Christmas. Just like, oh, you're imitating the kuffar, you're among them. How can you even think about this? It's shirk, it's this, that, or the other thing, which really shows a couple of layers of misunderstanding. For one thing, misunderstanding the concept of shirk, which is, belief in a God aside from Allah, which being with your family on Christmas is not that. So, and also a misunderstanding of the culture. And please remember that in Islam, there are allowances for us to maintain our culture. I'm sorry, there's just, I'm again with the comments. It's like, I wanna be addressing these as they're going, but I can't always. So there's a misunderstanding of the culture, and honestly, yes, there are a lot of Christians in, I'm in the U.S., so I'm speaking from the U.S., but in the U.S. and Canada and in the West, there are a lot of Christians and a lot of people who do have a religious component to their Christmas celebration. But for me, like, my family is mostly full of atheists and agnostics. Like, there's no Jesus happening in my family. So to accuse people of worshiping someone aside from Allah by being with their family on Christmas, to me, coming from where I come from, and my family, it's almost laughably absurd. It's just like, that's not a thing. That's not the thing that's happening right now. So it's just these layers, both of isolation, and guilt. And also, and I'm speaking from my own perspective. And for me, I know that when I go to my family Christmas, I'm doing it in the interest of maintaining family ties, because my family, like, no one's trying to shove Jesus down my throat. You know what I'm saying? Like, no one's trying to convert me back to Christianity. Again with the comments. But there are Muslims and Muslim converts who don't feel comfortable celebrating Christmas, and that's okay too. I don't want to make it sound like you have to go to your family Christmas or you're being terrible or whatever. If you don't feel comfortable and you feel like it's going to affect your iman too much, then don't do it by any means. And so then you're also suffering from the layer of guilt from your potential layer of guilt from your family who's upset that you won't go. I mean, you really have to make the best decision for you. And this, I'm going a bit off topic again, but this is being addressed to other converts. Like, for me, I know that I'm not going to be compromised in my Islam, because no one's going to be trying to convert me. No one's going to be trying to make me feel uncomfortable. It's really just a family get together. And if you have as a convert are able to maintain that, and you're able and you feel comfortable with that, that's fine. And that's great. And you should do it and maintain your family ties. But if you don't feel comfortable and you don't want to participate in Christmas, that is also okay. So one way or another, most, if not all converts are facing isolation on some level, either from the family or Muslim community or both, or guilt from the family or Muslim community or both. So, how do you support your convert friends during this time? First of all, do not condemn your Muslim friends, your new convert friends, do not condemn them for seeing their family during this very common holiday. In fact, if you have a friend who's a convert and they're like, oh, I really want to see my family, but I'm not sure if that's allowed, you should encourage them to see their family, encourage them to go with their family. If they have a good relationship with their family, you have no idea how, a lot of times, especially for new converts, it is, we get this idea that if you're born into Islam, you know so much, which isn't always the case. And a lot of times it is the case, mashallah, but a lot of times it's not. That's a different topic for a different time. But it wouldn't mean so much to a new convert for someone who is Muslim, who's been Muslim all their life, to just say, like, yes, go be with your family. Even, like, you don't have to, what am I trying to say? You don't have to get into it. You don't have to, back it up with evidence. Just say, go be with your family. Go be with your family. Those simple words and that simple sentiment can really go a long way. And you could really sort of push someone, what am I trying to say? Like, push them towards maintaining family ties. Inshallah, that could be a reward for you. When people feel pushed to make all these breaks away from old life so fast, it pushes them away from Islam. And I don't want to hear any like, oh, well, if they really converted to Islam for Islam, then they wouldn't leave it. Like, no, that's not how it works. Remember that, like, the earliest believers, the ones who we look up to as the most faithful, the best Muslims, they did not become Muslim. They did not practice all of Islam overnight. It was years and years of revelation that made a gradual process towards Islam, towards the practice of Islam as we know it today. So don't try to push converts to make a bunch of changes so quickly. Even if you think like maybe it's not a great idea to celebrate Christmas, remember that by encouraging converts to be with their family and to be around people who love them and accept them, and having that in a family is just such an amazing blessing for a convert to Islam. If you encourage them to be around those people, ultimately that's going to strengthen their iman. Like, I can almost guarantee that if a convert is on the fence about going to their family, they hear a Muslim say, you should go be with your family, and they're able to be around people who are supportive and loving towards them, I can almost guarantee, inshallah, that would strengthen their faith. It would not push them away from Islam. It would not push them to Christianity. It would be something that would strengthen them and strengthen them in their Islam. So this is, again, sort of going towards people who do have a family to go to, right? But again, we have to go back to the Muslims who do not have a family to go to, which is really tragic for those who lost their family when they became Muslim. I know, Christmas time is not particularly a special time for Muslims, but please, again, remember, and it's not like you can see, you are able to observe the world around you. You see the decorations everywhere. You see people Christmas shopping. You see people getting excited about the holiday. There's an atmosphere around that exists, whether you're Christian or Muslim or Hindu or whatever. It's there. This is the time of year. So it's whether or not you do anything special this time of year, to someone who has grown up in the culture, it is a special time of year. So even if it doesn't hold a special place in your heart, if you know that there's a Muslim who has no one to go to or has lost their friends and or family for becoming Muslim, please be with them. Do something that will make them feel that warmth that a lot of people feel this time of year. Invite them over for dinner. It doesn't have to be a Christmas dinner. It can have nothing to do with Christmas. It can just be hanging out with you and some friends or your family, introducing them to other Muslims, playing Monopoly or whatever, Scrabble, or making cookies or whatever, anything to just make them feel like they have a sense of community at this time of year. And again, like I said, I've been really blessed to not have to ever face that. I love my family, and I can't imagine the heartache that people go through when they lose their family for becoming Muslim. So please, reach out to these people. Maybe there are some Muslims, particularly Muslim converts who don't feel it's a special time of year. Like, that happens. There are people who aren't Muslim who just hate this time of year, and that's fine. Like, if you better to offer to do something nice with them and have them say, oh no, I'd rather not, than to just leave people in isolation. You know what I'm saying? So it does not have to be about Christmas, just about community, just about bonding with someone, about supporting your fellow Muslims. I'm sorry I keep on swallowing. I've got a sore throat, so I apologize for that. Like I said, it's a special time of year for the vast majority of the population. Make it special. It does not have to be about Christmas. It can just be about being together. And what is wrong with that? You show me in Islam what's wrong with that. You'll fail, because it's not. There's nothing wrong with it. Sorry, I'm holding my phone, and I'm used to doing this on my computer, so I'm kind of all over the place. So for the last couple of minutes, I'm just going to talk about, work and school functions, how to make your convert friends feel comfortable during those times. So, I'm trying to think, because I only recently joined the workforce in the last year and a half. I was a stay-at-home mom for many years, so it's hard for me to speak to this. And but so we're going to talk about like Christmas parties or holiday parties at work and school. So there are two ways you're going to go. You're going to go to the party. You're going to not go to the party. Okay. Obviously, if you're going to go to the party, you're expecting it to not be like a wild drinking thing. And the reason I'm struggling with this is, like, I know that any of my company get-togethers wouldn't even have alcohol at them. So it's not even a thing. Like, my team at work got together shortly after Thanksgiving. It was at my boss's house, and it wasn't company sanctioned or anything. Like, obviously, if you're going somewhere on company money, you're not allowed to buy alcohol, and because that's just, like, that's not something that our company is going to sanction. Like, they're not going to allow that. But this was completely independent of it. It was just like my team going to my boss's house, and there was still no drinking. Like, people were like, oh, well, I'm not even sure if it would be like acceptable to bring alcohol to this. So like, I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling, but I'm sort of coming from this mindset because I've heard about these like work parties that get like out of control or whatever, and people are drinking, but I've never witnessed such a thing myself. Like even like I was trying to say, even when there was an opportunity with my work people to drink, like they didn't. So I'm having a hard time trying to like build this scenario because I have no experience with it. I've never seen it. I've only heard, the urban legends about it or watched it in movies or whatever. So anyway, I've gone off on a tangent long enough. So you're either going to the party or you're not going to the party. If you're going to the party, then obviously, like I said, you're not expecting it to get out of control, which is why I comfortably have gone to my own work functions. So in this scenario, you're a Muslim, you've got other Muslims on your team or in your work or at school, and we're presuming they're newish converts. So if you guys are going to the party, obviously you're gonna watch out for each other, make sure that no one's getting crazy. But more to the point, we're looking more at how do you make people feel comfortable, because it might be a little bit, uncomfortable being at a holiday party when, we don't celebrate holidays. And this isn't really about maintaining family ties. We're not talking about like making your grandparents happy by showing up to the Christmas party. The work and school parties are a little bit more like, okay, well, you don't really have to go. So would you go? But again, we're talking about work and school, so it's not worshiping Jesus. So there is still like that possibility, like if you want to go, you can go. But just make sure, like, obviously you have to know about the culture of your place, the culture of your workplace or your school. If you have another Muslim, and particularly a new Muslim on your team or in your class, and you aren't going to go to the party, to the function, it would be, again, and this is sort of a recurring theme here, invite them to be with you. If you're not feeling comfortable going to the holiday party, invite your Muslim convert co-workers or classmates, that's what it's called, to go hang out with you instead and go have some, halal fun. And then if you are going, it's always, and this goes for whether your friend is convert or just like another Muslim who's been Muslim for a long time. It's always a good and kind thing to offer your company to a fellow Muslim. So make sure that they're not feeling uncomfortable. And if you sense that they are feeling uncomfortable, it would be kind to, offer to leave with them or go outside with them or whatever it may be. Just sort of the same theme as before. Offer to be with someone. It really makes a huge difference to be in the company of other Muslims. And like I said before, this isn't what I said before, but it's, again, the same theme. Offering your kindness to someone. Offering your compassion and your encouragement to another Muslim. It can only be a good thing. It can only be a good thing if you're giving your opinions and you're being harsh and judgmental. Even if you're being judgmental with good intentions, it can go either way. Like, yeah, you might encourage that person. And of course, if you see someone doing something wrong, you want to correct them. That is something that is in Islam. You want to correct them. You want to do it in a kind and compassionate way. But you that's not what I'm saying. My point is, you catch more flies with honey than vinegar, though technically flies are more attracted to vinegar, but the saying. You catch more flies with honey than vinegar. You show your kindness, show your love for your fellow Muslims, and that can only strengthen their iman. when you're around other Muslims, like think about it, when you're around other Muslims who are good and kind, do you ever feel distance from Allah? No, you see your brothers and sisters in Islam and you're like, wow, mashallah, like you're inspired, you know, you want to be more like them. You want to offer your love and compassion and your kindness out to your community. So I've done a fair bit of rambling here. The overall message is be good and kind. Don't try and make people break away from their family. And if they have no family to go to, or if they have no friends at work or anyone to go to, just offer to be with them. Offer your company. You can't go wrong, inshallah. You can't go wrong with that. So before I go off on another rambling nonsense thing, I'm going to go ahead and end this. Because I think, as anyone who's seen my videos before knows, I can talk myself in circles for quite a long time. There is one question that I saw from the beginning, more towards the beginning. Someone asked how my family reacted to me converting to Islam, and I will take a minute to answer that. Just because it is somewhat relevant to what we were talking about. Now, please remember that my family's reaction is not the typical one. My mom honestly couldn't care. She's just like, okay, fine. And honestly, like, that's a good thing. My dad had a little bit harder of a time, but ultimately, like, is nothing, and it's no big deal. And honestly, that's sort of the theme of it. Once they... I think I was far away from my family at the time. I was like 1,500 miles away from them, living outside of the U.S. And I think a lot of them worried, whether it was conscious or subconscious, that I was going to be a different person. But once they realized, you know, like they didn't lose Leah, you know, Leah's not going anywhere. Leah's still there. They just realized like there's no harm in it. So, and a neutral reaction is great. So anyway, I will go ahead and wrap this up now. Thank you everyone for your comments and your questions. I do tend to hang around the comments for a little while after I sign off. So if there are any questions that I missed that were relevant to the topic, I'll try and address them. If you have comments or questions that weren't necessarily relevant to the topic, please make sure to message the About Islam page, and they might be they might be able to be addressed either in another live session or in an article written by one of the many talented writers who write these articles for About Islam. So whether you're going to be with your family or not, I hope everyone has an enjoyable holiday season. It's an enjoyable time of year. Lots of people bake. It's great. So inshallah, everyone has a good remainder of their weekend and enjoys what they feel comfortable with this time of year. Assalamu alaikum.